Hello, this is Miss Griffith. I now have two narrative brainstorms. This one is going to be the more complex one. I would recommend students in first grade and second grade try to create a brainstorm like this when it is their turn. But I also did a simple brainstorm for narrative writing, and I would recommend students in kindergarten and some first graders to try this when it is their turn. For the purpose of moving on to create a rough draft, I'm going to model this for you using the simple or the lower level brainstorm. So I'm going to use this brainstorm right here and model how to turn that into a rough draft. This is my brainstorm. So this piece of paper is where I got my thoughts on paper. When I work to put these thoughts into a rough draft, I can expand on them, meaning that I can copy words from this piece of paper to my rough draft, but I can add more words in order to make the writing a little bit stronger or a little bit better. I have a piece of paper here. I'm going to put the words rough draft at the top. This is not going to be my final draft, meaning that this is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the finished product, but it is going to be a next step for the brainstorm that I have done here below. So the first thing is I'm going to touch on my feelings. I mentioned that I was feeling happy. I'm going to start my writing at the red line here. When I'm writing, I don't want to start in the middle of the page. I don't want to start all the way down here. I want to start towards the top of the page and towards the red line. I was happy. As you can see, the word happy is on my brainstorm, and I added I was to make it more into of a sentence. I'm going to put a check mark by feelings to let me know that I have carried the thought from the brainstorm into the rough draft. I was happy. Next, I am going to choose to write about the action. So if we remember from the brainstorm, my action was playing. I was happy to play. Once again, the word play is here on the brainstorm, but I did add another word to make it more like a sentence. So far, I have I was happy to play. I'm going to go ahead and put a check mark near the actions to let me know that I carried the thought from this bubble onto my rough draft. I was happy to play. Next, I'm going to choose to talk about the setting. I was happy to play. I added in the woods. Woods came directly from my brainstorm, but I did add two more words, again, to make it more of a sentence and less choppy. I was happy to play in the woods during summer. Now I have both pieces of my setting onto my rough draft, so I'm going to go ahead and put a check there. So far I have, I was happy to play in the woods during summer, and I'm going to add at my camp at the end of the sentence. At my camp. And this tells me that this narrative writing, this story that I'm writing, is taking place at my camp. I'm going to read you what I have so far. I was happy to play in the woods during summer at my camp. Now, to me, that sounds like a complete thought, and I think I can go ahead and put a period at the end of the sentence. As a writer, you always want to put a period at the end of your sentence. Now, I have 4 checks on my brainstorm. I know I've talked about my feelings. I know I've talked about my trip to camp. I know I've talked about my setting and my actions. I'm wondering, did I introduce the character? I am going to put a check mark on characters because on my rough draft, I did say that so I am writing about myself, and I know that because I have the word I here. I have now taken my brainstorm and transformed it into a rough draft. Now, this rough draft takes the ideas that we brainstormed and expanded upon them. Our goal as writers is to have at least 1 sentence at the kindergarten level and more sentences in the upper grades. This is an example of how you would turn your narrative brainstorm into narrative rough draft. The next step of the writing process is to revise and edit. So this writing is better than the writing on the brainstorm, but we can edit it, make corrections, and revise it to make it even stronger. That will be in a video to come.